Is it playing?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Great. How do I start this?
And then we're going to yours.
Okay. Hi. I am a junior in college. I'm 20 years old, and I wanted to talk about sexuality, specifically women's sexuality, and how it plays a role in society and how society kind of dictates it. This has become kind of a passion project of mine. 2 years ago, I was sexually assaulted, and something just kind of got under my skin of how everyone reacted to my story. The majority of the people, when I told them, were taken aback and they didn't really know how to handle it, understandably so. But I sought out help from older people, expecting them to have the right answers, and they didn't. And I thought that that was so weird, that they didn't know how to handle what I was telling them. And I just didn't think that that was right. But nobody was talking about it. No one was really having a discussion about it. No one was communicating about what was going on with my generation. And I think that it's been going on since the beginning of time. We idolize women. We oogle over them and just praise their bodies. But when it comes down to like your spirituality and how it's actually connected to you as a person, that's not societally acceptable. And then when you make that the standard, when sexuality and sex is forced upon you as a woman, it's still your fault, because as a woman you're not really supposed to be sexual. For you to take your own sexuality into your own hands, no, that's still not okay. So I wanted to start a channel where we just talk about it. We talk about women and their experience with their own sexuality and sex and their bodies and their minds, and how every one of these things connect, because it's still not being talked about. And as long as we don't talk about it, the bad stuff happens. And we give the bad shit that happens more power when it doesn't deserve to have it. So 2 years ago, in spring, I was sexually assaulted. But at that time of my life, I was going through a lot of changes. My family, my parents were getting a divorce. I had come home for that semester from college. It was my freshman year. I'd come home to be with my family and work and kind of just take a breather and take a break from the madness that was my life. And I felt so out of control in every aspect of my life during that period. And so when I was sexually assaulted, that was kind of the last straw. I just didn't feel ownership over who I was or what I am. And I struggle with mental health issues like depression and anxiety. It's something that I've had my entire life. I don't know what it's like to not be anxious. So it affected me. And I didn't talk about how it affected me for a really long time because I wanted to be strong, and so much other shit was going down that I handled the situation and moved forward, but I didn't think about self-care and how I needed to heal in order to move past this and be productive. And so what ended up happening is that I gained about 25 to 30 pounds in a matter of 5 to 6 months. It was quick. It was really quick. And I was someone that, I'm 5 foot, and even when I was like barely 100 pounds, I had double deep breasts. So I was always a curvier woman, but I gained weight. I've never for a moment been obese. I gained weight and I was a little overweight, but I was still beautiful. And by society standards, I was still smaller. But to watch my body in such a short amount of time gain so much weight, it was hard to look in the mirror because I didn't recognize myself. And at first, like the first probably 10 pounds, I kind of liked it because I didn't get hit on as much and I didn't get as much male attention. I could walk into a room and people wouldn't notice me. and I could still fit into the majority of my clothes. So it was okay, like the first 10 pounds. But they kind of happened out of nowhere because I've always been a really active human being. I love sports and I love working out. And so I was still working out for the most part, and I hadn't changed my diet. Nothing had really changed, but I just all of a sudden started gaining this weight. And then I came back to school, and I really hadn't healed from that a whole lot. And I just like threw myself into school and tried to be super active in my school, but I wasn't happy. It was probably one of the most depressed times I've ever had in my life. And I gained 10 more pounds. And I was still working out and still eating well. And then I met somebody and I fell in love with them. And they, of course, told me that I was absolutely beautiful, and they were like, please don't go work out, come back to bed and snuggle with me. And so I did, and we would eat pizza and not eat the best, because at that point I was like, well, fuck it, if I'm gaining weight and I haven't changed anything about my diet or my exercise, then I'm not gonna work out and I'm not gonna eat well because it doesn't matter. So I gained 10 more pounds. So in like a 6-month period, I gained like 30 pounds. None of my clothes fit, and I just hated the way that I looked. And at that point, that was when I realized that it wasn't comforting for me to be bigger. It was just a reminder of what had happened to me. So I just stopped looking in the mirror because I didn't want to see that that had caused damage to my life. Back when I was teeny tiny, I always thought that I was bigger than what I was. I never really looked in the mirror and was happy with the way that I looked. And if I couldn't go all out, I just didn't dress up. Like if I couldn't just put a full outfit together and do my hair and do my makeup perfectly, I just didn't, because like what's the point? You either do it the best of your ability or you don't do it at all. And so since I didn't look the best, my body wasn't the best, I just didn't do it at all. Because what's the point in my mind? But then I was talking to one of my friends who says, we were talking about our weight gain and kind of our experience as women, and she said that she went to a hormone therapist, and they like did blood and took saliva and did all these tests, and it ended up she had something wrong with her hormones, and that was what was making her gain weight. And I was like, what? That sounds ridiculous. She was like, no, you should absolutely try it and go to the doctor. And so I did, got my test results back, and I did have something wrong. He said that it was common if you do have mental health issues, because your chemicals are kind of just different. You're made up a little bit differently than other people. That your hormones can be affected by trauma and something that happens. And I thought it was so weird because I'd been living in kind of stress and turmoil for a while. So I was like, why was this the thing that got my body all out of whack? The doctor said that it was really common. It was common for women after sexual assaults to experience this. When you gain that much weight that quickly, it's hard. Because you know that it's not just, especially if you're short, because if you gain 5 pounds, you can tell. So it's not something that you can avoid. If you're having to buy new clothes, you've gained weight and people notice. But no one was really saying anything to me. Sometimes they would. So it was good to hear that, like, yeah, I probably ate one too many cheeseburgers, but a good chunk of it was just my body reacting to this and me not taking proper care and time to be like, you're okay. Not going to counseling after it happened, just pushing through. I did some hormone therapy afterwards, and within a month I dropped 16 pounds. Like immediately just dropped weight. But what the doctor said about it's common and a lot of girls experienced it just stuck with me, and it irritated me because I've never heard of that before. And if it's common, if it's a thing that's going on, why aren't we talking about it? And so I ended up interviewing about 12 girls, and what was so interesting was each girl had something from their story that they felt just so alone by, that they thought that they were the only one that was experiencing that or feeling that way. And then the next girl that I interviewed felt the exact same way. So it was a pattern. We're just not talking about it. We're all feeling this. We all feel awkward and uncomfortable in our bodies, period, because we're women, because we're human beings seeing what body standards should be. And it's hard to live up to it when your job isn't to look hot. You've got like real shit you have to do. So I just wanted to start this. I wanted to start a discussion where women felt free to say, hey, this makes me uncomfortable. I feel vulnerable and kind of alone in this. Is it weird? Because normally it's not, and even if it is, who cares? It's your experience. It's valid. It is your experience. So that's the point of this channel. I want to get a group of girls together who can share their experience about how they have become the women that they are today. We just really want to build a community where we're speaking out. How do I end this? So thank you for joining in on our discussion.